to the end of the week. I got some kids watching PBS for the next 5 minutes, so we hope that lasts for a little bit. And I was just sort of thinking about the week overall and what we've accomplished together as a team, all of us, reaching 10,000 followers on Instagram. That's a big mark, so thank you for the support, and I'm so excited to use some of the technology that's associated with that to make it easier for you to access information from our site. We also went through a very important rite of passage, being banned from YouTube yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw that, but for some reason our coffee talk yesterday was flagged and was removed, and we got this kind of harsh letter from YouTube about how we were violating community guidelines. And we were thinking so hard, like, what did we do? Like, what did we do? And that's, I understand having to police your content. I think that's really important, clearly, but we were given really no explanation. Turns out YouTube came to us a couple hours later and said that they made a mistake, which I appreciate. That's extreme ownership. My husband wrote that book. They took extreme ownership, but it doesn't really give any sort of an explanation. We were thinking about all sorts of things. We're like, well, maybe because we keep the title Coffee Talk all the time. One of the things you can't do on YouTube is you can't constantly put up content that says, hey, visit SmartHER News, visit SmartHER News. Like, you can't just kind of like flood people with spam. And we were worried that maybe we were being looked at that way. I don't think we were. I think it genuinely was a mistake. And so, as I said yesterday, I am not the problem when it comes to threats against YouTube content. Although my kitchen is a mess right now. Oof. So, I mean, I can understand reasons for censorship. I'm censoring you because I'm not showing it to you. Okay, I might because it's so bad. I have like mail. We got milk cartons out. Just at the end of the week, just everything kind of goes away. So, yeah, I hope you guys had a good night's sleep. I did not. I'm in one of those periods with my kids where I'm wondering, will I ever sleep again? That's what I'm wondering. Will it ever happen? Will I ever feel rested? Any of you parents out there that have gotten past the toddler stage, let me know. I mean, I just don't think I think this is just going to be the way it is forever and ever. It's beautiful to have children. If you don't have any, it's going to be fine. But at the end of the week, these are the big philosophical thoughts you start having. It's really true. All right, so let's get to some of the news, you guys. I'm glad to see some of you are with me, by the way. I appreciate that support. When we're in it together, it feels somewhat better. So let me just start off with a little kind of interesting like news candy for you. On this day in 1982, Thriller was released, Michael Jackson's album Thriller, and it was one of the greatest selling albums of all time until something that happened this year. August was actually a historic year for that particular title because the Eagles' greatest hits album overtook Thriller as the #1 bestseller. But we were looking for a quote last night. We like to kind of encapsulate some of this kind of more fun news with a quote of the day, something that's a little bit more inspirational. We were looking at something from Michael Jackson, and I started reading part of his book Moonwalk about his career. And I found a quote in there that we used today on the site, and he was recalling a time that he was on the Ed Sullivan show for the very first time. And he was walking around before his performance and bumped into Ed Sullivan. Can you imagine? And Ed Sullivan took him, kind of had this heart-to-heart with him that he's recalling in his book. And it was in 1970, so he said it was a time, this is sort of eerie, it was at a time when so many performers were dying due to drug overdoses. It was kind of you're in it. And Ed Sullivan said to him, don't ever forget that your talent is God-given, in a way to say, like, you have to respect your talents. And I thought that was a really kind of a cool message, and what a scene between these two individuals. And then to think about the way that Michael Jackson ended up passing away, and to think about that comment. But I think it's a good reminder that I think sometimes we feel like we have so much control, and we're so much in control of our talent. And in a lot of ways we are. We have to hone it. But a lot of it is bigger than us too, and I like that particular quote. So I hope you do too, and I think it's really interesting that the Eagles overtook Thriller. Let's see what's happening over here. Okay, speaking of fighting, let's talk about Russia. Hey, what's going on? A mammoth? Is that what you're learning about? We're watching, what are we watching, Trace? Wildcrats? We like that show. Okay, so you guys got a little picture of the kitchen. I'm sorry, it's so crazy. All right, we can watch one more, okay? A little PBS gives me a little time in the morning to make breakfast, and I don't mind. They start talking about animals and stuff, so at least I watch this with them. It's a cute little show. Basically, these guys become cartoons. I'm like, interesting metaphor. Okay. Okay, guys, let me just get this straight. But what's happening with Russia? Here we go. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. All right. So let me explain a little bit about what's happening with Russia, because this week there's been a lot going on. And it's one of those situations that you wonder, well, when will it reach sort of like a point of no return? You know, and we talk about sometimes miscalculations when things happen and it's not intended, and then it can cause an international event. And some of the things that happened in Russia this week sort of show that. So let me back up. Let's go back a couple years. 2014, Russia invades Crimea, right? Crimea is a part of the Ukraine, technically according to international borders. Russia says, no, it's not. It's always been a part of Russia, so it's going to be a part of Russia. Over the course of the last several years, about 10,000 people, according to some estimates, have been killed in this conflict between Ukraine and Russia that is basically ongoing. There's not constant fighting all the time, but there's tension and conflict about this particular territory. Do you guys remember several years ago when a passenger plane was shot down over Ukraine? Do you remember? That was horrible. Hundreds of people died. It was traced to a Russian, air to surface. I hope I have that right. A Russian missile. And these were innocent people that just happened to be flying over Ukraine. And it was horrific. They were shot out of the sky. They had nothing to do with this conflict. And really, the international community didn't do that much. I mean, condemnations and sanctions against Russia, but it's one of those events that sort of came and went, and it's just horrible. So that gives you an idea of some of the stakes and what Russia is willing to do to assert its power or control. What happened on this past weekend is in this area around Crimea, a Ukraine ship was sailing, and several, I believe, and the Russians confronted these ships and shot at them and ended up taking some of the crew hostage and saying, like, they were in our territory, they can't do that, they're being provocative. Now you have these guys that Russia is holding, about 24 people that they're holding, crew members, that are now giving these, distress statements about, well, we knew we were provoking Russia because they're being held hostage. That's the one thing. So Ukraine's president comes out and is like, this isn't good. I'm declaring martial law in these particular areas of Ukraine that border Russia. Now he announced today he's not allowing any Russian military-age males to come into Ukraine. So that, imagine if Canada was that, the United States was like, no Canadians can come in. I know you're across the border, you travel here with ease, but no, you're not going to come in because we're worried about this. The Ukrainian president has said to NATO, I think you should send ships or you should send presence here because Russia is getting out of line. Russia's like, we're not getting out of line. This guy, the Ukraine president, is running for a re-election next year, and he's just posturing. This is nothing. So this is what's going on. President Trump canceled his meeting with Vladimir Putin, citing this yesterday. But something else happened yesterday related to Russia that's unrelated to Ukraine, but just sort of shows how many of our news stories tie back to Russia. And I don't know if you guys saw the plea deal with President Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen. Did you guys see that? Russia was involved in this way. We don't know all the details of the plea deal. We have to remember that Michael Cohen is facing prison time. This is a plea deal, so we don't know the motivations behind it or whether or not he's trying to get less jail time. This is something that, Trump officials are floating, even the president saying, oh, he's lying because he wants to get a more favorable sentence. We don't know. But we do know that he's pleading guilty to saying that he misled Congress and that when President Trump was being elected president, and shortly thereafter, he was continuing to try to represent the Trump family in business dealings in Russia. And that would be a big no-no. Like, ethically, it's not okay. Yes, President Trump was a private citizen, but once you are president-elect, you have to be very careful with these business dealings, because now you're going to be the nation's essentially commander-in-chief. So, like I said, we don't know all the details about it, but here's the timing of all this sort of swirling together over the last 24 hours. And some are suggesting, well, is this the reason that President Trump also canceled the meeting with Vladimir Putin, because the optics of that would be so bad after the Michael Cohen plea agreement? You know, just getting pictures of them together, with the suggestion by this plea agreement that perhaps President Trump did know that they were continuing to pursue these business ventures. There's a lot we don't know, and one thing I do want to mention about the Mueller investigation, if you guys have a chance, and you know what, I'll swipe up to it today. You can read the one-page, gosh, I don't even know what it's called. It's basically the directions that were given to Robert Mueller on investigating whether or not Russia colluded with members of the Trump administration or interfered in the 2016 election in any way. It is so broad. So if they found that Jenna Lee had talked to Michael Cohen and about something unrelated, but that I as a journalist, got something for free, a free car because of the cover, like, if they found something bizarre that incriminated me, they can roll me up. Like, even if I have nothing to do with Russia, it's that broad and sweeping. So even though the overarching investigation is about did Russia interfere with the election, that's the purpose of it, it is broad in nature to figure out as well what else was happening between any Russian officials and any American. I mean, essentially, that's how broad it is. So this is not saying that we have evidence of Russian collusion in the election. It's not saying that. It is not incriminating the president directly, of saying the president was somehow changing his policies to try to get these business deals through. It doesn't do that. But the timing of all this is it's yucky. It's all kind of yucky. And so that's why it's getting some attention. And it's renewing some energy and press coverage of the Mueller investigation and what they are finding or not finding. And, so far, we have a little bit here with Paul Manafort, President Trump's former campaign manager, and Michael Cohen, his former personal attorney. Beyond that, there are a couple other cases that are, we have one person, serving some jail time. But as far as the major implications of why this matters and whether or not it's going to affect the integrity of U.S. elections, it hasn't risen to that level yet. So when it does, I'll be sure to map it out for you. But that's part of the reason I don't chase every single headline about the Mueller investigation. We really need to know, as these developments come down, why does this matter? What is the bigger picture? And sometimes it's not always clear. So we'll mention it when you need to know about it. But in general, I don't want you stressing about it. Curious George. All right. Finally, just want to mention to you guys that we have our weekly newsletter. If you haven't signed up for that yet, definitely do. Just go to smartnews.com. You sign up with your email. Super easy. And I just send out one email a week. I try to keep it to 300 words or less, and it sort of recaps the news super easy so that you can just read it while you're having coffee. I also provide links to things like this podcast that I just did. You'll see a little bit of it on our Instagram account, but you can go to the link in our bio where I'm going to post it just shortly. And it's about a 12-minute interview with the spokesperson for the National Christmas Tree Association. He was so much fun. Taught me a lot about Christmas trees and also about just the Christmas tree business. I had no idea that farmers don't water Christmas trees. They don't need to. So Christmas trees are grown in every 50 states. They are never watered because they don't need to be. And once they're 2 years old, basically they can survive almost anything. So they're kind of environmentally efficient, patriotic, and truly an American business. When you buy a tree, the majority, if not all of them, are from America, because where are you going to ship a tree in from? We can grow our own. So just something to think. I really learned a lot. I thought this was a very cool interview, and I loved how he described how you should pick out your best tree. So I thought that would be fun for us this weekend as you guys hopefully are preparing for the holidays. If you have any stories you'd like us to check out, info@smarternews.com. Thanks for rolling with us this week. Here's to not getting banned anymore, being the bad kid on the block. I mean, really. All right, guys, have a great day, and I'll talk to you. Well, you know I've been jumping on like I have to talk to you all the time, but I'll see you on Monday if I don't see you before then, okay? Talk to you guys later.